Now we'll consider the second case. Consider three particles which are not lying in the same plane. Now we have three particles here. Now there is one particle, call it as M1. Here is the second particle, call it as M2. Here it is some second particle, M2, and third particle, M3. Now this is the x-axis. Now this is the y-axis. Now coordinate of the first particle is x1, y1. Now second particle is x2, y2. Third particle is x3, y3. So that means the three particles which are not in the same straight line, they are going to form a triangle shape. Now we have a triangle shape. Now we have to work out where is the center of mass. Now the center of mass, it is somewhere here. It is C. It has the coordinates capital X and capital Y. In the earlier case, all the particles are along only x-axis. So therefore we have taken only the x coordinate. But here the particles having both the x coordinate as well as y coordinate. So therefore we are choosing the position of the center of mass as capital X, x coordinate, and capital Y, y coordinate. Once again we are using the same formula. Now what is the position of the center of mass whose x coordinate is given by, as usual, it is mass m1 plus multiplied by x1 plus m2 x2 plus m3 x3 divided by, it is m1 plus m2 plus m3. This is the x coordinate of the center of mass. Similarly, y coordinate of the center of mass. Instead of x, we replace it by y. That becomes the y coordinate. m1 y1 plus m2 y2 plus m3 y3. Once again denominator, it is sum of the masses m1 plus m2 plus m3. This is how we are writing the position coordinates of three particles which are not in the same straight line. Okay, they are going to form a triangle. Now if the masses are equal, that is m1 is equal to m2 is equal to m3 is equal to m, say, then look at the coordinates. Now x becomes m into x1 plus m into x2 plus m into x3 divided by m plus m plus m. Now in the numerator m is common, therefore it is x1 plus x2 plus x3 divided by 3m. Now m get cancels. So therefore x is x1 plus x2 plus x3 divided by 3 if all the masses are equal. Same thing is obtained for the y coordinate also. That is y1 plus y2 plus y3 divided by 3. Therefore, in the case of a triangle, the center of mass is located at the point of intersection of medians. What is a median? The midpoint of the side is joined to the opposite vertex is called the median. If you join like these medians, now this intersection, point of intersection of the median, it corresponds to the center of mass in the case of a triangle. Now here we are having only the x coordinate as well as y coordinate. If you have a three-dimensional diagram which is having both x coordinate, all x coordinate, y coordinate and z coordinate also. If you have a z coordinate, then what is the expression for the position of the center of mass of the z coordinate is, it is m1 z1 plus m2 z2 plus m3 z3 So divided by m1 plus m2 plus m3. Like that we are having the three coordinates. Or if we are having a system of n particles having the x1, x2, xn coordinate, y1, y2, y1 coordinate, yn coordinate, and z1, z2, zn coordinates. So then we can write this x as, by using the sigma notation, it is mi xi divided by capital M, where capital M stands for sum of all the masses of all the particles. Similarly, so y is equal to sigma mi yi divided by m, and z coordinate is equal to sigma mi zi, so divided by capital M. Now this summation is used if the number of particles are countable. But if you have a system in which the number of particles are very large, it is highly impossible to count or highly impossible to make sum of all those particles. In that condition, we are going to make use of the notation of integration. We are using the notation of integration. And also in three coordinate system, if you have a position vector r, it is given by x I cap, y j cap, and z k cap. Now it is the position vector of a particle. Then it's a position vector of the center of mass. Now this is the position vector of the particle, and this is the position vector of the center of mass. It is capital X I cap, capital Y j cap, capital Z k cap, where X is given by this formula, and capital Y is given by this formula, and Z is given by this formula. Okay. So if you have an infinite number of particles, then instead of summation, we are using the integral sign. So with that notation, we can write, so x is equal to, so x into dm. Similarly, y can be written as 1 by capital M integral of y into dm. Z can be written as z is equal to 1 by m integral of z into dm. That is the integration. And similarly, r can be written as, if the particles having an infinite number of particles, then the position vector r is written as 1 by m integral of r into dm. This is the integration part. That means if you are having an infinite number of particles, so instead of we are using the summation sign, we are using the integral sign. That is the thing. Now we will work out one problem regarding the center of mass. Find the center of mass of three particles of masses 100 gram, 150 gram, and 200 gram placed at the vertices of an equilateral triangle as shown in the figure, each upside 0.5 meter. They have given three masses. Let me take m1 is 100 gram, m2 150 gram, and m3 it is 200 gram. It is given, and each side is 0.5 centimeter. The side is 0.5 meter. 0.5 meter. Now let me write the coordinates of this one. Now first mass m1 is at the origin, whose coordinates are 0, 0. That is x1 is 0, y1 is 0. Now second particle, whose x coordinate is 0, x coordinate is 0.5. What is the y coordinate? It is 0. Y coordinate is 0. Now similarly, let me write the z coordinate here. Coordinates for the third one. Now since this is the midpoint, therefore x coordinate becomes 0.25. 0.25 x coordinate. Now what is the y coordinate? Now we have to calculate this one. This can be calculated by using Pythagoras theorem. Now this is 0.25 and 0.5. By using the Pythagoras theorem, what is this length? Okay, so if I take this is O and this one is A and this one is B and this one is point D, midpoint D. Okay, so therefore BD square is equal to OB square minus OD square. OB square is 0.5. 0.5 whole square minus 0.25 whole square. 0.5 is 0.25 minus 0.0625. And simplifying, we will get BD length is equal to 0.25 into root 3. Therefore, these coordinates are 0.25, y coordinate is root 3. Simplifying, and finally we will get 0.25 into root 3 answer. Now, where is the center of mass? So assume that here is the center of mass, C. Now, the x coordinate of the center of mass is given by the formula m1 x1 plus m2 x2 plus m3 x3 divided by m1 plus m2 plus m3, that we know formula. Now m1 is 100 gram, x1, now this is the x coordinate, it is 0, plus m2 150 gram, x2, now this is x2 0.5, plus m3 200 gram, x3 0.25, whole thing divided by m1 plus m2, 100 plus 150 plus 200, that is 450. Now simplify this one, we will get 150 into 0.5, it is 75, plus 200 into 0.25, it is 50, divided by 450 is equal to 125 divided by 450, or it is 18 meter. It is 5 by 18 meter, x coordinate. Similarly, find the y coordinate. Now y is equal to m1 y1 plus m2 y2 plus m3 y3 divided by m1 plus m2 plus m3. Okay, so m1 100, y1 0 plus m2 150, y2 0 plus m3 200, y3 is 0.25 root 3, whole thing divided by total sum is equal to, now look here, 200 into 0.25, it is 50, root 3 divided by 450, so it is root 3 by 9, or 1 by 3 root 3 meter. If you simplify, you will get 1 by 3 root 3 meter. So therefore, here the position of the center of mass is x coordinate 5 by 18, y coordinate 1 by 3 root 3. So like this we are going to solve the problems.
Now we will solve one more problem. Find the center of mass of the uniform L-shaped lamina with dimensions as shown in the figure. The mass of the lamina is 3 kg. Here they have given an L-shaped lamina. Okay. So its mass is 3 kg and it is uniformly distributed. Now I am dividing this lamina into 3 squares. Now first one is this square. Since the mass is uniformly distributed, this first square has a center of mass at the point C1, which is at the center of the first square. Now we have the second square whose center of mass is at C2, and the third square whose center of mass is at C3. And also they have given the dimension. Now this is the origin, and this one is 2, 0. Now this is 2, 1, this is 1, 1, this is 1, 2, and 0, 2. Now from that one, now what is this coordinates? These coordinates, now it becomes 1, 0. Now this coordinate becomes 0, 1. Okay. So since mass is uniformly distributed, let me consider here is m1 mass, here is m2 mass, and here is m3 mass, and all are equal to 1 kg each. Now first square having 1 kg mass, the second square having 1 kg mass, and third square is also having 1 kg mass. So therefore, let me take m1 is equal to m2 is equal to m3 is equal to 1 kg. Now we have to find the coordinates of these points. C1. What are the coordinates of this point C1? Now look here, from here to here it is 1. Now this midpoint becomes 1 by 2. So it becomes 1 by 2. Here to here it is 1 y-axis. The midpoint becomes 1 by 2. Why we have chosen midpoint? We know that in the case of a square with uniform distribution of mass, the center of mass is exactly at the center. Now this center point is half from the x-axis and half from the y-axis. Okay. Now what is the coordinates of this one? Now this is 1 and half. Therefore it is x-axis is 3 by 2. What about the y-coordinate? It is half. Y-coordinate is half. Similarly, what are the coordinates of this one? Now this is x-axis, that is half coordinate, and y-axis is from here to here it is 1, and this is half, that is 1 and half or 3 by 2. Now after getting the coordinates of the three centers of masses, now we are going to find what is the center of mass of these three squares. Okay. Now we have got the coordinates. Now x1, y1, it is this one, half, half. Similarly, x2, y2, their coordinates are 3 by 2 and half. x3, y3. x3, y3 coordinates are half and 3 by 2. Now after knowing the coordinates and after knowing the masses, now we will have a center of mass of this system with position coordinates capital X, capital Y. Now apply the formula. Now what is capital X is given by? It is mass of the first square into x1 plus mass of the second square m2 x2 into m3 x3. So divided by, it is m1 plus m2 plus m3. This is the formula we know. Now m1 it is 1 kg. Now what is x1 here? x1 is half plus m2 1 kg. What is x2? 3 by 2. It is 3 by 2 plus m3 it is 1 once again. x3 it is 1 by 2 divided by m1 plus m2 plus m3, that is 1 plus 1 plus 1. Now simplify this one. It is half plus 3 by 2 plus half divided by 3, or denominator is same, therefore just add them. It is 5 by 2 divided by 3, therefore it is 5 by 2 divided by 3, or it is 5 by 6 meters. Units, 5 by 6 units. 5 by 6 units. That is x coordinate. Now similarly find the y coordinate. The formula, it is m1 y1 plus m2 y2 plus m3 y3 divided by m1 plus m2 plus m3. That is equal to, obviously m1 is 1. Now what is y1? It is half plus m2 is 1. What is y2? y2 is half plus m3 is 1. What is y3? Now this is y3, 3 by 2. Once again we are getting the same values. So it is 1 plus 1 plus 1. Now it is half plus 3 by 2. In the denominator 2 is common, therefore it is 5 by 2. 3 plus 1 plus 1, it is 5 by 2 divided by 1 plus 1 plus 1, that is 3, or y is equal to, it is also is equal to 5 by 6 units. Therefore, the center of mass has the coordinates x comma y, that is equal to 5 by 6 by 5 by 6. Now in the diagram, if you look at that point is between C1 and D. That point 5 by 6, because D is 1 1. It is 5 by 6, 5 by 6. Around it is 0.82. That means the center of mass of this lamina, it is here. This is the center of mass of a given L-shaped lamina. Now this is how we are solving the problem. Next concept, motion of center of mass. Now in the previous class we have studied, if the position vector of the ith particle in 3 dimension is given by vector r is equal to xi I cap plus yi j cap plus zi k cap. We are having a system of n number of particles. Then the position vector of the center of mass is given by capital X I cap, capital Y, j cap plus capital Z, k cap, and we have used the integration part for that one. Now and r is given by, the position vector is given by the formula sigma mi xi mi ri, sigma mi ri, including x axis, y axis and z axis also. Mi ri divided by capital M. Okay. Now we are going to study the motion of the center of mass. Now just cross multiply this one, we are getting m into vector r is equal to sigma mi ri. Now what is the meaning of sigma mi ri? So it is m1 r1 plus m2 r2 plus etc. mn rn, since it is having an n number of particles. Now deriving on both sides, derivating with respect to t, derivating on both sides with respect to t. So since mass is a constant, we are getting dr by dt is equal to, now derivative of all the terms. Here mass is constant, you taken it out, so therefore derivative of dr1 by dt plus m2 dr2 by dt plus etc. mn drn by dt. Now since r is the position vector, what is the rate of change of displacement or the position is represented by the velocity component v, velocity v. Now m1, let me take this as v1 plus m2 v2 plus etc. mn vn. Now what is v? It is the velocity of the center of mass. What is m? The total mass of the system of particles. Now m1 mass of the first particle v1, velocity of the first particle. m2 mass of the second particle v2, velocity of the second particle. So like that one. Now taking once again one more derivative with respect to time. Take the. Now we know that mass into velocity, it is nothing but the momentum. Now we can say this is the momentum of the center of mass. Now taking one more time derivative, I am getting dv by dt that is equal to m1 dv1 by dt plus m2 dv2 by dt plus etc. mn dvn by dt. The what is rate of change of velocity? We know that one as acceleration. Now here capital A represents the acceleration of the center of mass. Now that is equal to, so m1, now dv1 by dt, rate of change of velocity of the first particle, therefore it is the acceleration of the first particle, plus m2, acceleration of the second particle, plus etc. mn, this is the acceleration of the nth particle. Therefore m into a, m is the total mass of the system of particle and a is acceleration of the center of mass. Now m1 a1, according to Newton's third law, it is the force on the first particle plus this is the force on the second particle, etc. It is the force on the nth particle according to Newton's second law. M into a is equal to f. Now these forces includes both internal as well as external forces. The F1 means the total force acting on the particle M1, internal as well as external. Internal means all the other particles are going to exert the force, that is internal. External means any other outer than this system of particles. But these internal forces are equal and opposite. Therefore, internal forces get cancelled. Therefore, we only left with the external forces. Remember this one. So, in the case of total force acting on F1, it consists of, if we write that one as F1 can be written as, it is F internal plus F external. So, internal means it is the force between the remaining particles. External, the force between the system and any other external body if you consider. Now these internal forces are equal and opposite, and in this vector addition the internal forces cancel out. So only left with the external force, and hence the final formula becomes m into a is equal to f external, which is nothing but once again the Newton's second law. For a system of particles, we have started with a single particle, single particle, and we arrived at this relation. Now it can be explained by using a simple example here. Now consider a projectile. Now we have a projectile. Okay. Now projectile is thrown from here. It is moving in a parabolic path. As we have studied, we have a projectile, an object is thrown. It is taking a parabolic path. That is okay. Now assume that at this point that projectile is going to explode. It is going to explode in mid-air. After the explosion, the pieces move in different directions. The piece of that projectile moves in different direction, but what about the center of mass? The center of mass is moving in the same parabolic path. Look here. Now we will study linear momentum of system of particles. Consider a system of n particles of masses m1, m2, etc. mn. Let us assume that those particles are moving with the velocities v1, v2, Vn. Then what is the momentum of the first particle? So P1 is equal to m1 v1. Similarly, second particle P2 is equal to m2 v2, etc. The nth particle, so Pn is equal to mn vn. Now these are the momentum of individual particles. Then what is the total momentum of the system? Therefore, total momentum of the system P is equal to, it is sum of the individual momentums of all the particles. So therefore, total momentum is equal to m1 v1 plus m2 v2 plus etc. mn vn. Now we have obtained this expression while studying motion of the center of mass. In that expression, we have got what is this is replaced by, so capital M, total mass of all the entire particles, and capital V, where V is the velocity of the center of mass. So therefore, this expression P is equal to M into V, it gives the linear momentum of center of mass, where M is the total mass of all the particles, a system of particles, and V is velocity of the center of mass. Now if we take the derivative of this one with respect to time, derivating with respect to time. If you're taking the derivative with respect to time, we are getting dp by dt should be is equal to, since m it is a constant, it is dv by dt. Now dv by dt, it is rate of change of velocity, which is nothing but we know it is acceleration. But it is here it is the acceleration of the center of mass equal to m into a. A is the acceleration of the center of mass. According to Newton's second law, what is m into a? It is nothing but the force. Our rate of change of momentum is equal to force. So therefore, dp by dt is equal to force external. It is not the internal force, it is the external force here, you should remember. Now this represents Newton's second law. That is, the rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the force. That concept. Okay. If the external forces are 0, F external is equal to 0. What we will get, look here. So dp by dt becomes 0. 0. That means derivative of some constant, some quantity is equal to 0. In the case of derivative, the derivative of a constant quantity is always 0. So from this expression, it represents the momentum is constant. That means it is conserved. Now that leads to the law of conservation of momentum. The law of conservation of momentum, it says that in a system of particles, the total momentum of the system is conserved if the external forces acting on it are conservative forces or no external force is present. So that is the conservation of momentum. In order to study this conservation of momentum for a system of particles, we will consider one example. Okay, we will consider two examples. Now we have a radioactive nuclide, radium. Radium is a radioactive nuclide. Now it is moving. Since it is unstable, it is going to emit certain particles and changing to the other nuclides. So as and when it is moving at this position, assume that it is going to emit one particle that we call it as alpha particle. That we will study in second PUC. Alpha particle is nothing but a helium nucleus. Now we are getting one particle here, a small particle, that is helium nucleus, or it is also called as alpha particle. It starts moving in this direction. At the same time, the radium becomes radon. It decays to another particle. Now it is moving along this direction. Now look here, a radium unstable nucleus at this position is going to emit an helium nucleus or an alpha particle. Now that particle is moving in this direction. Obviously, the radium becomes radon nucleus. That radon nucleus is moving in this direction. So that the center of mass of the two should remain along the same straight line. Now this is the direction of CM. CM stands for center of mass. Now for the study of this motion of the product nuclei, we are using the concept of center of mass. In the same example, instead of this radium nucleus is moving, if it is at rest, now assume that this radium is at rest. It is not at all moving, it is at rest. Therefore, center of mass is also at rest. Now it is going to emit once again the helium nucleus or alpha particle. Then what happens? The alpha particle starts moving in this direction. Now here is the helium nucleus. It starts moving in the upward direction. At the same time, the radon, it starts moving in the downward direction. This is radon. Now this is the radium, which is at rest, is going to emit alpha particle. Since it is at rest, the momentum should be conserved. Therefore, one particle moves in upward direction and the another particle, that is radon, is moving in the opposite direction, so that the center of mass of the particle should be at rest. Now these are the two important examples. And also in astronomy we have studied binary star system, that is two stars revolving around a common center of gravity or center of mass, binary stars. Now if it is star S1 and it is star S2. Now they are revolving. If you assume their center of mass is here, if the center of mass has a linear motion along that one, then what is the path of those stars? Now this star, it moves like this, like this. Now here in the previous it is like this. The solid path represents the motion of star S2. At the same time, the dotted path represents the path of S1. They are revolving each other, but the center of mass is moving along the same straight line. But if the center of mass is at rest, now if S1 is moving along this direction and S2 is moving along this direction, they are revolving each other. The center of mass, if it is initially at rest, it remains at rest. Now these are the two examples for the study of center of mass for the system of particles.